Hello, hello, and welcome back to Minotaur Hotel. Yup. Uh, that night, a whole new wave of guests packed the lounge, and during your usual dinner time. Asterion doesn't even have to bring it up. You can plainly see the agitation in his eyes. And so, you and your Minotaur roommate partake of that most ancient and reserved custom, getting some takeout to enjoy it in the quiet privacy of your quarters. During dinner, Asterion keeps glancing at the table, a smile finely painted on his rough lips.
I may have discovered something quite useful for us, Mr. Josh. I was trying to read a few recent Greek works today, which, as one should expect, is quite the different language from what I learned in the early days of the Labyrinth. I did notice, however, that the hotel's translation was having a slight effort, just enough to help me bridge the gap. One of these days I will try to, update the hotel's translations. I might know how to do it.
When you settle in after finishing dinner, Asterion becomes lost in thought. At times, he looked to the drawer where you hid Clement's letter. How's the writing going? Did you write down any poetry?
Oh, yes, I did in fact. After I kindled the hearth's flame, I went to the garden, to Lord Hades' statue, to the Dittany tree.
Yep.
I've had the silliest thought nagging at me for ages now. When I was a boy, I would scrape or injure myself. When I would scrape or injure myself, one of my brothers would rub Dittany leaves on my wounds. I cannot be naive enough to believe that Lord Hades knew of my preference, but I sometimes wish he did. That this may be the reason why a tree grows by the statue. I felt such a strong emotion today, attending to the garden. It reminded me of a poem I wrote long ago. I wrote it down again, of course.
Asterion looked out the window to the crescent moon outside.
Do you think, Mr. Josh, Lord Hades could have known?
I'm sure he did. It must have been his gift to you. It's the least he could have done for a loyal member of his royal guard and sparring partner.
A god caring about a mortal. That's a very innocent idea, Mr. Josh. But I suppose, my good and wise master, it is your command that I believe your words. Should I bow down and obey?
You should believe me, because I'm right, not because of masterhood, this or lordship that.
Very well, sir. Truth or not, the thought alone brings joy.
Okay. Sorry, he looks so cute. Luke's is also good. I mean, I guess that's the best we can do for now. Robert gives you a knowing look. You having a nice day, I assume?
Indeed. But it can always get better. Tell me, what brings you today, Mr. Josh?
During our last conversation, you talked a bit about Asterion's soul. When exactly do you know about it? What exactly do you know about it? Can demons see souls?
I can glimpse a bit of it, yes. It is not my specialty, but most of my kind do possess this skill. It doesn't reveal, however, your character, morals, or misdeeds. What we see is what one's soul is made of, and a few other traces. So, it is Astarion's soul you would like to learn about.
Yes, if memory serves, you said he has humanity, but it's mixed.
Ah, yes. He is a most particular soul. It has been puzzling me a great deal. He has a very strong humanity in him. Tempered, resilient, prodigious, even. It seems so exponentially old as well. I struggle to even guess his age. He looks like he's at the peak of his youth, but that soul feels nothing short of ancient. If I had to wager a guess, I'd say he's been through many harsh things. That often withers one's spirit permanently, prematurely. That said, there is a lot more to be glimpsed about him. Things yet more puzzling. He has a touch of divinity, and a very ancient one to boot. But it's almost as if it had been sucked out of him.
What do you mean?
I struggle to articulate it. I've never seen anything of the sort. It's like his divinity has become
anemic? Okay.
Or was bled out of him. There should be more, but its absence has left a gap. When I gaze deeply into it, if you will allow my impertinence, it goes so far as to unsettle me. And yet, he seems altogether unfazed by it. I can only wonder what happened, for I'd never have the courage to ask him directly. Would you happen to know something about it?
I wish I did. We are partners, but there's much I don't know about. I don't think it's my place to share everything, but you're correct when you guess that he went through many harsh things. That's what, yes.
Poor thing. At least he has you around.
Excuse me?
Your presence soothes him, and I don't need to see into his or your soul to know it.
I suppose I can take that as a compliment.
You should. Kindness is a virtue, Mr. Josh, and so is humanity.
That's why Ken Ichijoji had the crest of kindness. Only for like one episode, though, so. Because 02 was stupid. Robert raises his drink, then gulps it down. In the second it takes for him to down it, the glass surface becomes foggy, and his body heat radiates. Wait, his body heat reaches its contents. Okay. He snorts, and an earth-shaking rumble comes from his chest, but one would guess it's involuntary, as Robert himself tries to quiet down by covering his mouth. When his quaking chest subsides, he looks back to his cup, and just a drop remains, but it disappears in front of his eyes as Robert's heat evaporates it.
Pardon my manners. My kind was not made to be particularly quiet, despite our humanity.
It's alright. Though, if you don't mind, what exactly do you mean by that?
In our last conversation, I mentioned that my people are similar to mankind. Did I not? I meant it literally. We are made of humanity. The demons of Nuremberg were sculpted with a core of dark, gentle humanity, meant to give us compassion, then encased in a shell of harsh, magnetic chaos to act as armor.
One could say it's the Dark Soul.
Humanity, Mr. Josh, is a very real thing. If you ever see me injured, you shall witness it then. That which makes us similar.
As I inquir... Wait, as, inquisitive as I may be, I cannot say my curiosity extends that far. I would prefer if no guests are ever injured in this establishment.
How delightfully human of you. As expected from one carrying a soul so exceedingly human.
What do you mean by that?
I've said too much already. Your curiosity will go unsated this time. Don't take this as a rejection, however. I want to make it clear that I enjoy our conversations, and I am happy that you speak so frankly with me. Do not be afraid of asking questions. After all, humanity grows stronger when it's shared.
When you leave a while later, you feel warm. It would seem you have made a friend. Let's check in on the R&D team. Progress was made. Cool. Build the gym. While much has already been done to equip the hotel with the bare essentials, you've seen more than a few particularly health-conscious guests jogging around the infinite hallways, trying to burn off excess calories. And you could hardly blame them in the wake of a certain griffin's coma-inducing fast food feasts. Though all of them were too polite to say anything directly, the expectation was clear. The hotel needs a modern gym, suited for men and mythical alike. All that remained was taking the time to design and implement all such facilities. Completing the gym was more laborious than expected. You assumed it would come down to instructing the labyrinth to create it, or clear a room big enough to hold all the equipment, and then generating enough properly shaped iron objects. Several problems arose, however. Catering to the strength of some guests provided difficulty, and then, of course, there were the electronics required for instruments like the treadmill. Thankfully, Asterion, Luke, and Kembish figured out all these solutions to having the hotel replicate schematics found on the internet. Some of the components required precious metals, which the labyrinth couldn't generate, but it was possible to use minerals like copper instead of gold or silver. That could come in handy for future projects. By the end of the day, you had a gym fully equipped to cater to any possible workout program for guests of wildly different strength levels. You take it upon yourself to give your partner a tour of the facilities before they're made available to the guests, and, of course, to get a workout in yourself in the intervening time. You recall that Asterion once mentioned exercise as a hobby, and so he's more than happy to join in when you invite him along. Though you doubt that the ancient world could have even begun to imagine the strides mankind would one day make in the pursuit of fitness. A part of you hopes Asterion will be able to make use of what a modern gym has to offer. Endearing as wide-eyed wonderment may be in the moment, you fully intend to treat this session as a trial run akin to the soft opening of the hotel in the weeks prior, with plenty of rooms for feedback and improvement. The antechamber is fairly Spartan, with a few sturdy chairs to serve the needs of those coming and going. Given the nature of the hotel and the services it offers, it didn't strike you as particularly necessary to include a separate reception area for the gym. It is within easy enough walking distance from the front desk that anyone who wishes to make use of the private locker can simply ask Asterion for a key at their discretion. A row of sinks flanks the hallways which divides the men's and women's locker rooms from one another, meant for filling water bottles as opposed to washing hands. However, as you notice the Minotaur's eyes lingering on a series of containers and measuring cups interspersed between them, he stops to voice a question.
A protein powder, Mr. Josh.
Huh? Well, how to say this? In your time, someone trained to be a warrior or athlete would eat differently than a normal citizen, right? It's like that. Meat is a good sort of protein, which helps build muscle mass.
Meat was a luxury in my day, reserved for those who could hunt, or else for special occasions. Do you mean to say that this powder is made of meat, dried up and ground down like wheat into flour?
I suppose it could be, in theory, but it isn't. Try some if you like. With permission freely given, Asterion leaves your side to indulge in his curiosity about the strange substance. After a brief moment fiddling with the lid of the nearest jar, the Minotaur measures out a tiny portion for himself with the smallest spoon available, turning the powder over into one hand, like a baker trying to gauge the quality of flour by touch alone. Asterion sniffs it briefly, before extending his flat, bovine tongue to lick it up. Okay. Only to turn his head toward you in confusion.
Chocolate?
In the modern age, diet is considered just as important as exercise, and to that end, mankind has learned to take protein from sources other than animals. Common examples are whey protein, which is refined from milk, and soy protein, refined from a plant of the same name. At some point during the process, flavoring is added to make it more palatable. The Minotaur seems to shudder at the implication. His gaze takes a tinge of discomfort before he turns away, seeking a place to rest while he grows accustomed to the burden of fresh knowledge. Plopping down onto the nearest chair, Asterion covers his eyes with his hand. You rush over, afraid that you've upset him, only for a slight smile to betray his true feelings, heralding the approach of an infectious good mood.
So I am vindicated at last.
Pardon?
You may recall, Mr. Josh, that I was banished to the labyrinth on charges of cannibalism. Imagine the stir it would have caused were such a thing said in my defense. Milk is liquid meat, no different from the flesh of the teat from whence it came. Plants, animals, and men are all made of the self-same stuff. By these tokens, we are all cannibals, rather. There is no other option for us. What great and terrible secrets your kind have wrestled from the hands of the divine. In Crete, I was initiated into a number of sacred mysteries, but nothing like this.
Would you like me to make you a protein shake to mark the occasion?
Please.
It never ceases to amaze how something so small can bring the Minotaur such joy. As such, you can do nothing but approach the coming task with a measure of ceremony. Picking up the thread of conversation, you walk to the sink and uncap your water bottle in preparation to mix Asterion a shake. And you note to yourself to add disposable cups to the area for those without the means to bring their own. Once you've done so, you begin by pouring out a small strand, as you've seen Asterion do so many times before the hotel's hearth, with all the solemnity of an elder monk, and inducting a new follower into a religious order. Big. You place a finger in the residue, and then tap Asterion's forehead to draw a little pattern on his fur. All the white, he peeks at you around the meat of his forearm, giggling like a schoolboy. After you finish with him, you repeat the gesture on your own forehead, then take a long drink before passing the bottle to the spirit of communion. Though the Minotaur hesitates just for a second, he takes a long draw of the thick liquid before the momentary lapse can draw much attention to itself. His Adam's apples bobs rhythmically until the last of the bottle's contents has been drained down his throat. Once he has finished, you grasp him by the shoulder, and his eyes refocus. Rise, Asterion of Crete. Initiate to the Church of Gates. Newly baptized in the Brotherhood of the Buff. Though I am but a humble acolyte, yes, of our order, gladly will I instruct you in our ways. Rise, my fellow meat mere. But only with the proper form. Our temple awaits us. Mass begins shortly.
At once, brother Mr. Josh.
You had the hotel materialize some clothing for the occasion. 2 sets of tank tops, fingerless gloves, and shorts. You and the Minotaur go into the locker room and change into your new outfits. You give Asterion the blue shorts, since they match his fur better, and keep the red ones for yourself. He stretches and gives you a goofy smile before following you into the gym proper. He seems pleased with how comfortable these new clothes feel to move around in. As you get into a deep squatting stance, Asterion mirrors your emotion, sliding off the chair and pressing his bovine forehead playfully against yours. Rising together in such close quarters, you cannot help but meet his eyes, and you release your bitten lips from the toothy bondage of composure. The moment you've cleared the moment you're clear of his horns. Laughter breaks out in earnest. Yes, with all the joyous irrelevance that men can share, and you walk on, arm in arm at its conclusion, hearts feathered light. Unburdened as you were by the usual constraints of cost, space, and labor, the gym that you've designed is a sprawling complex which houses all the paraphernalia one could expect, and then some. Machines of all kinds dominate the room's center, organized accordingly to the body part they represent. Their respective exercise most benefits, flanked on either side by areas devoted to different ways of keeping healthy. On the left side is a section with a padded floor, meant for stretching and warm-ups, accompanied by a few accoutrements. For those interested in gymnastics and yoga, and a few adjoining rooms in which classes may one day be held. Beyond, a space for cardio, replete with treadmills, bicycles, elliptical machines, and even an indoor track. Not outdoor, indoor. On the right are racks full of free weights, along with barbells and benches, yes, to suit the needs of those interested in manual strength training and lifting. That an area for high-intensity interval training with medicine balls. I always forget that's what those are called. Kettlebells, battle ropes, and so on. I don't know what a battle rope is. Oh well. As expected, Luke has a lot to say during the design process, but to your surprise, there were hardly any purposed additions that could be readily classed as horny. Those that were, you shot down with prejudice and without a second thought. Still, his influence can be felt in a number of places throughout the gym, from the military-style obstacle course in the cardio section to the full-length mirrors along the wall, in which to admire and be admired, in his own words. A part of you suspected that the Griffin will be able to turn some of his suggestions toward a lewd purpose regardless, but you've long since given up that battle. You can't very well stop him from eating the eye candy in the place where so many others will likely be doing the same. Far in the back lies the strongman section, filled with more arcane and showy methods of muscle building. Per Luke's request, there are a number of metal bars and other metal objects to be bent, with the hands, old phone books to be ripped in half, and spikes to be driven into wood, in a tribute to the origins of the American bodybuilding scene at Muscle Beach. There are even vehicles, anchors, and anvils to be pulled and pushed for the mythicals whose baseline strength would eclipse all but the best that humanity has to offer. You even catch a spark of recognition in Asterion's eyes as he lingers on a series of rocks to be lifted and tree trunks to be twirled, are relics of an age long past, and a lone point of familiarity for the Minotaur in an otherwise alien landscape. Sensing Asterion's hesitation, you take him by the hand and lead him towards the stretching area, going through the motions of a perfunctory full-body routine with him. It takes only a short while to get yourself situated, yes. And you soon learn that the Minotaur's lack of experience with modern methods does not translate into a lack of readiness to adapt and overcome those limitations. For a while, Asterion just stands there, watching, and attempt to memorize that you're doing as you complete a set. Okay. Once it's his turn to try, you call out instructions when you notice him starting to stare from the proper form, stray from the proper form. Yes, he seems to take the constructive criticism well, and grows more confident in what he's doing with every rep. By the time the Minotaur has finished his first set, that's a good. Yes. He seems secure enough to finish the remainder on his own. You take up position on the next machine and start working out in tandem with him. The cycle repeats a few times until you feel satisfied that you've done enough for the day. But you're soon forced to realize just how gravely you've underestimated the gap between mere mortal and the mythical. Asterion continues to exercise with all the enthusiasm of one that has not had the pleasure of meaningful physical exertion in nearly a century. After a while, you have to remind him that you both have other duties to attend to today, only to be met with puppy dog eyes and cries of "one more rep." Though you try to keep up as long as your reserves of physical stamina will allow, it's readily apparent that Asterion's divine lineage has gifted him an incredible physique. In one unassuming half-bovine package, there lurks both power enough to casually shatter each and every one of your personal records of endurance to outlast you in any possible physical activity. Were you a lesser man, you might begrudge Asterion his superior genetics to console your bruised ego, as the Minotaur finishes his last set and approaches while beaming from ear to ear. However, all such petty thoughts melt away. You've done what you set out to do, and that in itself is satisfactory. Okay. Oh, we'll end the part there, so I'll see you around, everyone.